Without struggle, there can be no progress. These are not my words, but the words of a man who was born a slave, but died a free man, a celebrated orator, and a champion of human rights, Frederick Douglass. Born into the harsh reality of slavery in Maryland, young Frederick Douglass experienced firsthand the unspeakable brutality and systemic oppression that marked the lives of countless African Americans in the 19th century. Yet, even amidst such inhumane conditions, a spark of resilience ignited within him, a spark that would ultimately lead him towards the path of self-liberation. Despite the significant risks involved, Douglass yearned for freedom. His longing for liberty was so profound that it compelled him to embark on a daring escape from his enslavers, a journey fraught with peril and uncertainty. Yet Frederick Douglass did not merely escape from the physical shackles of slavery. His journey was also a profound intellectual and emotional metamorphosis, a transition from the darkness of ignorance to the illuminating power of knowledge. Education played a pivotal role in this transformative journey. Denied the right to learn and grow intellectually, Douglass took matters into his own hands. He taught himself to read and write, seizing every opportunity to expand his mind and broaden his horizons. His hunger for knowledge was insatiable, and it was this relentless pursuit of education that became his most potent weapon in the fight against oppression. Through education, Douglass was able to see through the fallacies and contradictions of the institution of slavery. He recognized the inherent injustice of a system that denied human beings their fundamental rights and freedoms. And with this newfound awareness, he found the strength and courage to challenge his oppressors, to question the status quo, and to strive for a better, more equitable world. Douglass's escape from slavery wasn't just a physical journey, but a mental one, a journey from ignorance to knowledge, from oppression to freedom. It was a journey that marked the beginning of his lifelong commitment to the cause of freedom and justice, a cause that he would tirelessly champion for the rest of his life. Through his groundbreaking autobiography, Douglass did not just tell his story, but laid bare the harsh realities of the institution of slavery. Born into bondage in Maryland, Douglass penned Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, as a testament to the inhumane conditions endured by millions of enslaved people in the United States. This powerful narrative was more than just an individual's journey from enslavement to freedom. It was a scathing indictment of the entire system of slavery. Douglass's vivid descriptions of the physical and psychological brutality inflicted upon slaves shook the very foundations of a society built upon this oppressive system. His eloquent and poignant writing brought the horrors of slavery into sharp focus, compelling readers to confront the appalling truth of their nation's peculiar institution. But Douglass's narrative was not merely a tale of suffering and oppression. It was also a narrative of resistance. His story underscored the indomitable spirit of those held in bondage, their unyielding desire for freedom, and their unwavering determination to resist their oppressors. It highlighted the power of literacy as a tool of emancipation, as Douglass himself learned to read and write in secret, defying the laws and societal norms that sought to keep slaves in ignorance. The publication of Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass had a profound impact on the abolitionist movement. It galvanized public sentiment against slavery, stirring the conscience of those previously indifferent to the plight of the enslaved. It gave a voice to the voiceless, humanizing those reduced to chattel and challenging the dehumanizing stereotypes perpetuated by pro-slavery propaganda. Through his narrative, Douglass challenged the institution of slavery, inspiring many to join the fight for freedom. His words resonated across the United States and beyond, awakening a deep-seated desire for justice and equality and forever changing the course of history. Douglass's words were his weapons, and he wielded them with finesse, challenging the institution of slavery and fighting for the rights of African Americans. Frederick Douglass, a figure of towering intellect and incredible oratory skill, emerged as a leading abolitionist, using his voice to challenge the institution of slavery. His speeches and writings were not just mere words. They were powerful tools used to dismantle the system of oppression and advocate for the rights of African Americans. With a passion for justice and a belief in the power of words, Douglas began to speak at abolitionist meetings. His eloquence and profound insights into the brutality of slavery were so powerful that many doubted he had ever been a slave. To dispel these doubts, Douglas penned his now famous autobiography, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, which became a powerful testament to the horrors of slavery and the indefatigable spirit of those who endured it. Douglas's speeches, like the iconic "What to the Slave is the 4th of July," challenged the hypocrisy of a nation that celebrated freedom while enslaving millions. His words echoed the cries of the oppressed, forcing the public to confront the inhumanity of slavery. He argued that freedom was a universal right, not a privilege to be granted by the few to the many. His writings, too, were instrumental in shaping the abolitionist discourse. Through newspapers like the North Star and Frederick Douglass Paper, Douglass reached thousands, spreading his message of freedom and equality. He used his pen as a weapon, challenging the institution of slavery and advocating for the rights of African Americans. But Douglass was not just an orator and a writer, he was also a leader. He guided the abolitionist movement with his wisdom and courage, inspiring others to join the fight for freedom. His influence was far-reaching, his impact profound. Douglass's voice echoed the cries of millions, making him a beacon of hope in their fight for freedom. His words continue to inspire us today, reminding us of the power of courage, conviction, and the enduring struggle for equality. To Douglass, education was more than just learning, it was a means to freedom and equality. He viewed literacy as the cornerstone of emancipation, a tool to challenge the status quo and question the unjust treatment of African Americans. To him, a mind ignited by knowledge could not be enslaved. Douglass's belief in the transformative power of education was not merely theoretical. It was born from his own experiences. As a young man, he taught himself to read and write, a feat that sparked his intellectual growth and propelled his journey towards self-liberation. His commitment to education extended beyond his personal growth. Douglass became a vocal advocate for universal education, believing it to be instrumental in dismantling systemic racism and advancing social justice. He saw education as a catalyst for change, a conduit for empowering marginalized communities, and a means of fostering an equitable society. To Douglass, education was not just a right, but a tool for advancing social justice and equality. Douglass's fight didn't end with the abolition of slavery. He continued to advocate for civil rights, suffrage, and equality. He perceived the struggle for freedom as an ongoing battle, extending beyond the chains of slavery to the systemic barriers of discrimination and bias. Douglass was a fervent advocate for women's suffrage, believing that the quest for equality was not just a fight for African Americans, but for all marginalized groups. He famously attended the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, standing as the only African American present, and unequivocally supporting women's right to vote. He also forged powerful alliances with other prominent activists of his time, including Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. These collaborations amplified his voice, allowing him to reach a wider audience and influence public discourse on civil rights. To Douglass, freedom was not just the absence of chains, but the presence of social and political rights. Douglass's legacy goes beyond his personal achievements. He is an enduring symbol of resilience, courage, and moral integrity. Born into a system that sought to break his spirit, Douglass rose not merely to free himself, but to champion the rights of others. He shattered chains, not only of metal, but of ignorance and prejudice. Douglass's commitment to human rights was unwavering. His powerful speeches and writings continue to resonate, challenging us to confront inequality and injustice wherever we find them. In a world often divided by difference, Douglass's teachings remind us of our shared humanity. They remind us that our strength lies in unity. Douglass's life teaches us that the struggle for justice and equality is ongoing and every voice matters. Douglass's legacy lives on in the museums, monuments, and educational programs dedicated to his memory. Across the United States and beyond, his life and contributions are immortalized in various ways. The Frederick Douglass National Historic Site in Washington, D.C., where Douglass spent his last years, stands as a poignant tribute, inviting visitors to walk in the footsteps of this great man. Educational programs, from elementary schools to universities, incorporate Douglas's writings and speeches into their curricula, fostering an understanding of his struggle and achievements. Annual events, such as the Frederick Douglass Day, honor his birth and celebrate his enduring influence. Online initiatives, too, actively work to keep his memory alive. Websites and digital archives make his work accessible globally, ensuring that Douglas's powerful words continue to inspire and educate. Our task is to remember, cherish, and carry forward the lessons from Frederick Douglass's life, ensuring his legacy endures for future generations.